My name is Gretchen Mogensen. I'm facility representative for Natural Bridge Zoo.
And just to confirm, you're the daughter of Debbie and Carl?
I'm the daughter of Carl Mogensen, yes.
Okay, gotcha. And do you want to just start by telling me a little bit about how you're feeling right now?
Everybody feels horrible. You just have to ask me a question, I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. I mean, what was your first reaction when you saw law enforcement on your property?
So when we pulled in on Wednesday morning, the entire parking lot was full of state troopers, which is alarming enough as it is. However, when we saw large animal trailers, that's when panic absolutely sets into your heart as to why those vehicles are there. The Virginia State Police took our phones if we had them. They searched our vehicles for anything, and we were notified that they had already been in the park for several hours, checking to make sure, I guess, things were secure from other people or animals or something of that lines, and the animal control unit had already entered the park as well. So for us as keepers, imagine having somebody go into your house unannounced, where your pets are, and your pets are terrified and they don't know this person coming in. So it's extremely stressful for the animals to see people that they don't know coming in aggressively, quickly, not knowing the animals' names, not knowing the special needs of each animal, how to talk, how to move, any of that stuff. So that's how their morning started. And then for my team of keepers, our morning started by having our vehicles searched, our phones checked, and not detained, but we were not allowed to actually go out and take care of the animals that we all work here for and literally live for. It was not until after 2 o'clock we were even allowed to provide base care, food, water, cleaning, anything. They wanted to go through the park and document, take photos and videos of animals that hadn't been fed and hadn't been watered and hadn't been provided their basic routines in the morning, to try and paint us in the worst light possible. It's like going into somebody's room after they've just slept in the bed and they've walked out, and this is how they keep their bedroom, disheveled and the sheets are all a mess, but you haven't had a chance to even go in and care for them. Anybody that has animals knows that animals make a mess. It's what they do, and it's our job to come in and clean it back up and set it back correctly and provide them enrichment and clean food and clean water and clean enclosure, and they wouldn't allow us to do that. We watched animal control officers eating Snickers bars and Doritos and cans of Coke and all sorts of snacks, and we were still not allowed to even provide food or water for animals such as birds that have a fast metabolism and may only eat during daytime. We weren't allowed to even give them anything while we watched other people eat. That's immensely stressful. We're hearing animals screaming and yelling as strangers are entering their enclosures. They asked me for my work keys, for my keys to open enclosures. And if I deny them, then they'll just start cutting open locks and cutting open enclosures so they can go in and make assessments of the animals. So for the safety of the animals, you give them your keys so that once they walk out, the enclosure can hopefully be locked back so you can contain those animals so they don't injure themselves. A lot of instances, they did not close those doors back. They left doors open on cold days for cold breezes to come in, possibly injuring or making animals sick. The really hard one, we have a beautiful white tiger named Zeus that we call the Cookie Monster, and he's been here for 12 years. I've been with him from when he was a tiny little potato, and wiped his behind and fed him bottles and provided all his care for him, and have been with him his entire life from start to finish. A few weeks ago, he started to have some weight loss, and our vet was extremely well aware of it. We had documentation for everything. We had medication for everything. We were doing absolutely everything that we possibly could. There's 2 of us here that have been with him since he was a baby. We did absolutely everything to provide him the best care, and the morning that they were coming, we were actually getting in contact with our vet to have her come out and assess him again because he hadn't been eating for a couple of days and we were very worried about him. And when the animal control officers had their own veterinarians with them, one of them supposed to be an exotic specialist, Dr. Ernesto Dominguez. I've never met somebody so cold in my entire life as a veterinarian. I don't think the man has a soul, honestly. He doesn't seem to actually care. He smiled the entire time he walked around and chose the fate of animals, which is sick. But he walked in to the Tiger's housing area with me, where I have a cat that's not feeling well, in his big fluffy bed of straw and hay. And tigers chuff when they're happy to see you. It's a sound. And the cat's chuffing softly to me while I have several people standing with me watching. They allowed my veterinarian, who I called, to come in, and she explained the condition and what we were doing with the cat, and that he was extremely well monitored and we were doing absolutely everything. And they decided that they wanted to see him get out of his bed and out of his housing area and go out into a larger area, which I did not want to do because he was not feeling well. And Dr. Dominguez said, I don't care what you need to do, open the door and get him to go outside. I don't make him go outside. So to make a sick animal that doesn't feel good, to force him to go out into an area where there's stress and people that he doesn't know. And while he may be a big, giant tiger to some people, to us, and to those that understand the animals know that he's scared, and he has every right to be scared and to be stressed by the whole situation, especially not feeling well. So he had to go outside, and they immediately made the assessment that he should be euthanized. I asked if it was if my veterinarian could do it, and they wanted their veterinarians to do it. I begged if I could please at least be present for that, because I have been with him his whole life, and I think it is only fair that the kindest thing that you could give him would be to let him know somebody as he takes his final breaths. The veterinarian that came from the sanctuary agreed to allow that, but that they would be performing any sedation injections or any of that stuff themselves. So normally with our veterinarian, I would be allowed to give the hand injection to sedate the animal because I can do it calmly by hand and it's not a negative thing. The cat will just sit there and I can just keep talking to him and telling him it's okay. But they were insistent that their vet do it. So she was not able to do it by hand, so she had to use what they call a pulse syringe, which is a needle on the end of a large stick. I was really hoping, because of where she was coming from, that she might have a little better practice at it. She was not able to do it successfully the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. So she jabbed him repetitively. So as soon as you get jabbed by a stranger, the cat is freaking out and he's jumping out of his bed because he had come back into his bed for comfort. And he's looking to me and I'm trying to provide him as much comfort as I can and telling him that it's okay when I know that it's not okay. And he wouldn't come near me. He went and sat over by his den door, so I had to go outside into his enclosure and try and distract him and talk to him so that she could sneak a stick up behind him and jab him again. So what I could have done in 5 minutes with my veterinarian, she said would take her 20 minutes, which is a tremendous amount of time when you keep getting jabbed and there's several strangers around. So I had to sit outside his den and talk to him and sing to him and say anything that I possibly could so that he would look at me and lock eyes with me and not look at her. So I had to hope that he would give me all his trust and stay with me so that I could betray him so that she could jab him, in which case he's yelling again and he's scared. And then she finally was able to get enough of an injection into him that he could no longer rise after falling. So I could go back around into his house and enter his enclosure and just hold on to him
as he started to try and vomit, and asked if they would please hurry. If you're going to do this, please hurry. He's totally disorganized. While Dr. Dominguez just stands there, like proud of what he's doing. So then the other attendants came in, and I held him, and I stroked his head, and I kissed his nose and held his paws while they took the very last breath that he'll ever have. While the cat may have had issues and he was sick, our vet was dealing with it, and we had very strong record of what was going on. We were giving him excellent care. But Dr. Dominguez and everybody else there thought it was best that they do it immediately, and they do it at their own hands by complete and total strangers. And then the plan was to bury him at the park, out in the yard where he loved to play ever since he was a little baby, but we weren't allowed to do that. So instead I had to watch them take him out in a bag and stick him in the back of a trailer and haul him off to wherever they chose, with no chance of ever having him return to me to bury him where he should be. So he was a wonderful, wonderful cat. He did not deserve what was done to him. He did not deserve that at all. I have one tiger remaining. She's 18 years old. She had to have all those strangers around her assessing her whether or not her life was valuable or not because of her age. Thankfully, they decided that I guess maybe she just wasn't worth their time. I don't know. But they left her alone. I don't know that in the future she'll be left alone, but for now she is at this moment. And that's just what they did to one animal. That's just one.
Did they give you any reasoning for why they came in the first place?
They had a search warrant that had a confidential informant employed here that had supposedly seen, according to him, what he thought was cruelty and abuse and neglect by all keepers and everybody here. I know my team, the team of people that work here are all wonderful. We all do this not to get rich. It's not a high-paying job. We do it because we love it. It's a passion. You don't give blood, sweat, and tears and work in 20-degree weather and pouring down rain and 105-degree weather for the pay on it. You do it because you care for the animals. Officers told all of my team members on Wednesday, like, you don't have to stay, you can leave, you're free to leave, we're not detaining you. All the keepers stayed because they all wanted to provide care to the animals, which speaks volumes for what they do. But unfortunately, they're going to be, by the state, painted as monsters for simply trying to do their job and doing a wonderful job at it. They're going to be depicted in a poor light, while the animal control officers are going to be depicted as wonderful. We weren't allowed to photograph or video or anything while attempting to take care of the animals when we were finally allowed in. However, they were taking videos and photographs. They didn't want us to take videos or photos because the way that their officers handled animals is absolutely atrocious. We heard animals screaming, unnatural screaming. You know what a dog sounds like when it barks or when a dog cries, because another dog bites it or, if something gets taken away from it. But there are certain sounds that are just completely unnatural, that are alarming. I heard one gibbon just scream. It sounded like absolute agony. Not running because I didn't want to upset the officers, walking over to try and see what might possibly be happening without interfering. I saw a gibbon knocked down to the ground from a high enclosure. They had rebar inside the enclosure. I cannot imagine what for handling this primate, a lesser ape. The gibbon was screaming, was trying to reach through multiple nets. Something did not go the way they wanted it because they were all yelling at each other to run, to people get in there and help and this and that, and then put a gibbon, which is a long-armed animal, into a wire kennel crate, like you would put your puppy into for holding for a moment, which is an extreme risk. This primate could stick his arms through and break his arms. I'm not sure that he didn't already have an arm broken by the scream that I heard from him. kennel's not secure. It's a completely improper way to have captured the animal, completely improper way to transport the animal. Everything about it was completely wrong. I don't know where the professionalism was, because it certainly wasn't with them, but apparently we were the ones that were under scrutiny. We had animals, when we finally were able to care for them, the animals just flat out refused to eat. They were just stressed, causing animals to start getting diarrhea, just standing over in corners, animals just running, just pacing walls. Yesterday, those animals had the same thing again. We had several animals not want to eat for days. We're hoping today that things will slowly start to return to normal for some of them, but for some animals it is impossible. I have a pair of, we have here a pair of, they're called southern ground hornbills. They're a multiple hornbill species. They're the largest. They are carnivores. They eat mice and all kinds of rodents and bugs and snakes and tortoises and stuff like that over in Africa. We have a pair that produce offspring, and they're one of the very few in the country, actually few in the world, that do produce offspring, and we have successfully reared chicks here. And that pair has been together for over 30 years. They mate for life. They were imported out of Africa back in, I think, the 80s as youngsters, and have always been together. They are extremely bonded and very intelligent. They still breed on Africa time. So as November, December rolls around, they go into their breeding season, and for them that means the hen goes into a nest box, and that's where she stays. And she does not leave that nest box while she sits on an egg, and her male cares for her. So he takes food and he feeds her. She does not leave. She stays on that egg to ensure the survival of that egg. All of my team was standing in the building yesterday when we watched Dr. Dominguez come in and say, I'm coming in to get the bird. And he said, singular bird. He went back into their enclosure. All of the keepers on my team started tears welling in their eyes as we all stand there. And I said, he's going to growl. And then you heard the bird growl. He was sitting outside of the nest box trying to defend his hen, his wife, his life partner, his everything. You heard him growl in defense of her, and then it went quiet. And then Dr. Dominguez was carrying him out by hand, holding his beak closed, and it was complete silence. So essentially, for those that understand what happened, is his hen, his life partner, was sitting on an egg in a box, and she stayed completely quiet to save her egg with her baby. And that male gave up his life so that she could live, so that she could hopefully care for that baby. But she won't leave that box. And there's no male, there's no husband to feed her. So this morning when I went in, she's just sitting there motionless on her egg with no hornbill male to take care of her. You can't just give her another. They've had decades of history together as a pair, as a partner, as a couple. And now he's gone. And they're intelligent, so she doesn't understand what happened. She just knows that somebody came in and took him away from her. And all he knows is that he would die for her, and he will die for her, because I seriously doubt they have any idea how to care for him. And the stress that they will put him through will likely kill him. But he did what he had to do. He died so that she could live. It'd be like having a couple that have been together their entire lives, and one of them is bedbound, and somebody to come in and take the other person away. And now that person that is bedbound has nobody to care for them. They have no way to get food. They have no way to care for themselves. And so they will just die waiting for that person, for their person to return. But her person will never return. Her love will never come back to her. He will die. So all that we can do is try and be the other hornbill for her. So I try to provide her food, but she doesn't want it from me because I'm not him. And that to me is absolute animal cruelty. That is wrong on every single account. If he did not take that hen because he was too ignorant to look inside the nest box, then you clearly don't know the species that you're taking. And so you clearly do not know how to care for it. And if you knowingly took only him and left her, you are a monster. That is a horrible, horrible thing to do to somebody, to anything, to rip away their partner of that many decades is just absolutely atrocious. So either way, for whatever reason they could possibly state, to take him, whether you didn't know she was there or you did, that is wrong, because you don't know what you're doing, and you've now broken a decades-long bond. And again, that's just one other animal. For them, it's just one more on a list of dozens. The special agent that was helping with us, with the state police, who was absolutely wonderful to deal with, the state police were extremely polite and very respectful this entire time. They were given a list by animal control, and that list had 91 animals on it. That is the list that they gave to the agent. That list was wrong. They lied. They took several other animals and did not even tell him, which what they did felt highly illegal, but that is a whole other level. They said they didn't take certain species, and they did. They wiped out entire buildings. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to why they took certain ones, to go and do an enclosure with multiple llamas and to just pick one. When our team tried to figure out why would they choose this one, and they said, well, it was the nicest one. She was the sweetest one. She was bottle raised, and she would come right up to you and try and, nibble on your ear or sniff your hand. So she was the easiest to catch. Why choose that? Why choose a 30-year-old little miniature donkey that everybody loved and had a special diet? He had to have his little cheekies cleaned out every day because his food would build up on the sides. So every morning he got his Triple Crown Senior soaked and was put in a separate area to eat it. And when he was done eating it, he could push open the door and go back out with his friends. But they took him. He was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with him. He was like 30 years old. They took another donkey that there was absolutely no issue with him. He was 22 years old. They selected a single sheep. We couldn't see any reason as to why certain ones were chosen. They would go into a primate area, never bringing any of their own capture equipment. They were going into our buildings and grabbing our nets and our capture items, using our nets, ripping holes into our nets. When we went in and checked our buildings where we normally have things setting, that's stress. That's the mountain lion. She's been ungodly stressed these last couple days. She's extremely bonded to me. And she hears if my voice is stressed, and that's her calling and concern for me. When they went into primate enclosures, when we went in and checked things today, there were brooms jammed through wire, rebar sticking through wire. So I can only imagine they were jabbing sticks and rebar and things at animals to try and get the animals to go where they wanted them. Cages ripped away from walls. Huge quantities of candy and produce and peanuts thrown on the ground. I'm assuming to attempt to persuade an animal into a transport enclosure, where had they actually asked our keepers or asked myself that we're going to be confiscating this animal, I would have said, please allow me to do it in a humane, calm method. The majority of our primates are conditioned to load into transports, and we could have literally set a transport kennel inside and asked them to get in and then close the door. But instead they chose to, what it looked like in some instances, to release them into the entire building and then go after them with nets, knocking lights down, knocking things all over the place, and to slam them into nets, monkeys screaming, and then throw them into transports. It's okay! Meow meow! It's okay. So while everybody's gone, obviously the stress is still high.
And why, or the animals that they did end up seizing, have they told you all what's going to happen, what they're doing with them, or anything like that?
We have absolutely no idea. They're seized most likely. Some things are supposed to go to Colorado, to a sanctuary called the Wilds, I believe. Some of their people were very polite. No matter how bad a light you want to paint us in, if their keepers are caring for those animals at all at that facility, they have to have some kind of a heart that they love those animals. And there's no way you could walk in here the last 2 days and look at our keepers and see them as monsters. So I do feel that some of them did actually feel some compassion and empathy for us. But the place they would be taking them to is not qualified to care for a lot of them. Some things I believe were taken to a local place. We saw an Angels of Assisi vehicle here with a trailer where they'd be probably taking the donkeys. I'm not sure of her name. I'm thinking it's O'Neill or something along those lines. I can't quite remember. Runs a sanctuary and a facility where they'll take birds and small domestic animals, and then you can essentially buy them. But it's not buying, it's a donation fee. So that these would be, we had all of our macaws taken, so now they may possibly be at their facility or the donkeys, and now they're up for people to donate and have them to be their own instead of them being in the care of the people that actually know what they need. So she can make money off of it. I don't know what happens to some of the primates. Some of the birds are endangered species and are not supposed to be transported out of the state. Not supposed to be sold, and so they live here. This is where they will live for the duration of their lives, but it was no issue for them to just grab them and take them and do whatever they wish. So from a legal standpoint, my understanding is we will have to go to court and try to fight to get those animals back. Even if we are found to be 100% innocent, we will still have to pay whatever boarding fee those facilities dictate is correct for each one of those animals. If I think it takes $10 a day to care for an animal and they say it takes 100, then 100's where we go per day with additional costs. And so to try and get those animals back will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, because every day they can delay it times 90 plus animals becomes an unattainable amount. And of course we are coming towards the end of the season and we're approaching Christmas, so things will probably go a lot slower. And even if we are to lose a court case on it, apparently we may still possibly have to pay the boarding fees of those animals. So either way, you lose.
Would you be able to share a picture with us of the white tiger?
Of Zeus?
Yeah.
Of my cookie monster? Yeah.
I can give you my number.
Yes. Look at that little face.
Aww.
That's as a youngster. Yeah. With his little kiss me's on. Yeah. He's the most handsome boy in the world. I mean, how can you not love that face? He was the sweetest boy. Everybody loved him.
Seeing him when I guess I used to come as a kid.
I mean, he's just the sweetest cat in the world. Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. You couldn't not love him. I mean, this was him in October. And he's a handsome man. He's the handsomest man. We call him the Cookie Monster because Meow Mix made these little cat treats. I think it was Meow Mix. They're called Irresistibles, and they're kind of like gummy feeling, and you could ball a whole bunch of them up together in a little wad, and he would snarf them all up. He loved them, so we call him the Cookie Monster. But his name was Zeus for everybody, but he responded to cookies, the Cuckoo Monster. Yeah, he was a sweet, sweet, sweet boy. These little tootses. Yeah. But they just, for a lot of times, they just see a white tiger, and so they just don't see its value in life. They see, oh, he's inbred, he's genetically wrong, he's this, he's that, he's all these things. Are we not a world that is supposed to accept that not everybody is perfect? Like, one of the vets that looked at him literally said that his family had something genetic spinally Well, I mean, so does that mean that we should have you euthanized just because you're not perfect? I mean, he's still a living, breathing, functioning thing. He still has a right to life. He has a right to kindness. That is the sickest part, is that he has a right to kindness, and they wouldn't even give him kindness. Not allow his vet to take care, to handle him, or to allow us to allow his passing to be peaceful, instead of him being able to pass peacefully with his moms, his humans, his caretakers all with him, talking to him, telling him how beautiful he is and how special he is. Instead, he had to be jabbed with a stick, jumping out of his bed, falling onto his hips, screaming. That's how he had to go. Betrayed by me instead of being coddled and loved by me. You know.
And they said it was just because he was sick?
That they felt that he needed to be euthanized right now. He needed to be euthanized. We had all his records, we had everything. They wanted to make it seem like it was their big discovery, like they've discovered a sick cat, when I have, I mean, just page after page of stuff where we've been monitoring him, making notations, monitoring every single ounce that he ate of food. For them it was something big to make them look what we found and look what we're fixing. You know, we're setting things right. You're not setting things right. You didn't discover anything. We are very well aware of what is happening with each and every one of our animals on a daily basis. We have an extremely dedicated team of people. We all know what's going on. This is no discovery. For him to be euthanized, we would do it our way, with our veterinarian present, where it was calm and it was kind and it was quiet and it was no stress, instead of doing it aggressively with a dozen people that he's never seen before in his life, barking commands and jabbing sticks. You know, they allowed me to be there, which I am thankful for that, but it was a betrayal for him to look at me while I let them hurt him. But it was that or him to have nobody there that he knew. I mean, imagine if that was your dog or your cat, you know. Rachel, we're gonna make you sit there and tell her it's okay, and then we're gonna stab a stick at her. And we want her to look at you, so she's gonna think it's you doing it. And she's gonna blame you. And you should be happy with us because we're doing it for you. Yeah, so.
Thanks for watching the ABC 13 YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos and live coverage and local stories, click to subscribe and download our ABC 13 News app.